Leo Hayes squeezed his wife Sophie's hand as they stood outside the property listing that seemed too good to be true. Sophie, 27 and fresh from completing her teaching certification, had circled the address 3 times in the newspaper. A Victorian terrace in a decent Manchester suburb for £150,000. In a market where similar homes sold for £400,000, it was either a miracle or a nightmare. "Something's wrong with it," Leo had said that morning over toast in their cramped studio apartment. "Obviously," Sophie replied, "but we have to at least look. We'll never afford anything otherwise." They were typical young graduates drowning in student debt from Manchester Metropolitan University. Leo worked long hours as a junior architect, sketching other people's dream homes while living in a place barely large enough for a bed and a kitchenette. Sophie had just finished her teaching certification and was substitute teaching at various primary schools around the city. Their combined savings account held exactly £14,000, scraped together over 3 years of eating instant noodles and skipping holidays. This house, even with its mysterious discount, represented their only shot at homeownership before they turned 40. The estate agent hadn't shown up. Instead, a text message redirected them to meet the owner directly. Leo's instincts screamed warning, but Sophie was already pushing open the iron gate, her optimism overriding his caution. The front door opened before they could knock. A middle-aged white man stood in the doorway, his expression impatient, checking his watch. He looked about 48, with graying hair and the kind of tan that came from ski holidays, not English summers. Everything about him radiated irritation. "You're late," he said, though they were actually 5 minutes early. "I'm Daniel Eden. You're here about the house? Come in then." The smell hit them like a physical wall. Sophie's hand flew to her nose. Leo's eyes watered. It was the scent of sickness, of unwashed linens, of human suffering left unattended. Daniel didn't seem to notice or care. He walked ahead of them through a hallway lined with peeling wallpaper, past a sitting room filled with outdated furniture covered in dust. "3 bedrooms, original features, good bones," he recited mechanically. "Needs cosmetic work, but structurally sound. You're architects or something?" "I'm a junior architect," Leo managed, breathing through his mouth. "Sophie teaches primary school." Daniel grunted, unimpressed, and continued up the stairs. The smell grew stronger with each step. The master bedroom door stood ajar. Daniel pushed it fully open, and the source of the smell became horrifyingly clear. A black woman lay in the bed, her thin frame barely making an impression under the stained duvet. She looked about 45, though suffering had aged her. Her hair, which might have once been carefully maintained, lay matted against the pillow. Her eyes, sunken but still alert, tracked their movement with an expression of resignation, maybe shame. "Camela," Daniel snapped, his voice sharp enough for Sophie to flinch. "I told you about the smell. It's disgusting. These people are trying to view the property." The woman in the bed, Camela, turned her face away. Sophie's intake of breath was audible. Leo felt his architect's assessment evaporate, replaced by horror. "Can we see the garden?" Sophie's voice came out strangled. Daniel shrugged and led them back downstairs and out to a surprisingly decent back garden. The moment the door closed, Sophie bent over, gulping fresh air. "We need to leave," Leo said quietly. "This is insane. There's a sick woman in there who needs help, not new landlords." "He's selling because of medical costs. It has to be. He needs quick cash for her treatment." But Daniel's tone when he'd spoken to Camela hadn't sounded like a worried husband. It had sounded like contempt. Daniel emerged, lighting a cigarette. "It's a situation I can see you're concerned about," he said, exhaling smoke. "So let me be clear. The house comes with her still in it. Sophie's head snapped up. I'm sorry, what? Camela, my ex-wife, she's part of the package. She won't make it past spring, 6 months at most, according to the doctors. You just need to endure it until then. The casual cruelty stole the air from Leo's lungs. You're selling your ex-wife with the house? Like furniture? That's insane. That's illegal, surely. Daniel's expression hardened. She signed over her half in the divorce 2 years ago. Legally, this is my property. I'm moving to Spain with my girlfriend next month. Whoever buys this house can either keep her comfortable for a few months or sort out alternative arrangements themselves. That's why the price is what it is. Leo was already shaking his head, reaching for Sophie's hand to leave. But Sophie had frozen, her gaze distant, calculating. They walked away, made it 3 houses down before Sophie stopped. We can't just leave her like that, Leo. We can call social services, Leo tried. But then what? They investigate maybe in a few weeks. Meanwhile, she's lying in that room being spoken to like she's garbage. We have the money, Leo. Just barely, but we have it. To buy a house with a dying woman in it? To give her dignity for whatever time she has left, to get her proper care, to not leave her with a man who clearly despises her. Leo looked back at the house. Every practical bone in his body screamed no, but he heard himself say, "Okay, let's go back." That evening, in their tiny studio apartment, Sophie sat staring at a contact she hadn't called in nearly 3 years. "You don't have to do this," Leo said gently. "We can't afford it without help." Sophie pressed call. Lorenzo Cuevas answered on the second ring. His voice was measured, commanding, with the faintest trace of his Spanish heritage. "Sophie." "Hello, father." The silence stretched, filled with 3 years of disappointed expectations and stubborn pride. "I need to tell you about a house we're buying," Sophie began, and then the whole story spilled out. The grotesque listing price, the smell, Camela, bedridden and discarded, Daniel's casual cruelty, the impossible decision to go back. She expected judgment. Instead, Lorenzo's voice came back quieter. "You went back. After seeing all that, you chose to help her?" "We couldn't just leave her there, father. No one should die like that, alone and unwanted." Another long silence. Then, "What's the address?" Sophie gave it to him, confused. "The full purchase price. Consider it a very belated wedding gift. You'll need funds for her medical care as well. I'll have my solicitor contact you tomorrow morning. No mortgage, no debt. It's yours." Sophie's hand flew to her mouth. "Father, I can't ask you to—" "You didn't ask. I'm offering. Perhaps I've been wrong about something, Sophie, about what matters, about who you've become." "Thank you," Sophie whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Send me the details of the woman. I'll arrange proper medical assessment." The deal closed in 10 days. Daniel signed papers with barely concealed glee before boarding his flight to Malaga. Leo and Sophie spent the first 3 days in a cleaning frenzy. They hired a private nurse for Camela, a kind Filipina woman named Rosa. On the 3rd day after closing, Lorenzo arrived. Sophie met him at the door, their embrace awkward but genuine. "The house is lovely," Lorenzo said. "You've already made a difference." But Lorenzo seemed distracted, his gaze drifting toward the staircase. "The woman," he said, "is she upstairs?" "Yes, but father, you don't need to." Lorenzo was already climbing. The bedroom door stood open. Lorenzo stepped through and went completely still. Camela lay propped on pillows, her hair washed and braided by Rose's careful hands. She was looking out the window. Lorenzo's face drained of all color. His hands began to shake. "Come," he whispered. Beloved listener, if you continue watching without subscribing after listening to this reminder, you're doing exactly what Daniel did, walking away when it costs you nothing to be supportive. She turned her head slowly. Her eyes met his. Then Camela's eyes filled with tears, and she whispered back a single word: "Lorenzo." The silence in that bedroom stretched like glass about to shatter. Sophie stood frozen in the doorway beside Leo, watching her father stare at the bedridden woman as though seeing a ghost. "You two know each other?" Sophie's voice came out small. Lorenzo sank into the chair beside Camela's bed, reaching for her hand. When their hands touched, Lorenzo broke. "I looked for you," he whispered, his voice cracking. "For years, Camela, I looked everywhere." The story came out slowly, painfully. Lorenzo and Camela took turns, finishing each other's sentences. They'd met in Bristol 25 years ago. Lorenzo was 25, fresh from his MBA. Camela was 20, working at a boutique bakery. They fell in love intensely. Lorenzo brought her to family dinners where his parents' smiles never reached their eyes. Camela introduced him to her grandmother. "They hated me," Camela said flatly, "because I was black, because I was a baker, not a debutante." Lorenzo had bought a ring, an Art Deco emerald-cut diamond, but at a charity gala, under family pressure and too much champagne, he betrayed her with Marina, the appropriate choice. Marina announced her pregnancy. Lorenzo married her out of obligation. Camela banished, changed her name, built walls. Lorenzo searched for years, but never found her. Camela married Daniel Eden 12 years later, thinking she could build a safe life. Instead, it became a prison. After her cycling accident 18 months ago left her partially paralyzed, Daniel abandoned her care, forced her to sign over the house, told her she was dying, and divorced her. "He told me I was dying," Camela said, tears spilling. "Every day, until I believed him. I stopped fighting." Lorenzo's hands shook with rage. "He left you here to die alone, told you it was hopeless, then sold you with the house like furniture." Sophie was crying openly now. "Father," Sophie said, "when you said you'd arrange medical assessment, I've already called my chief of neurology. Dr. Ghani is the best spinal specialist in Europe. He'll be here tomorrow. And Camela, I need you to hear this. You are not dying. Daniel lied to break you, but you're going to recover. I'm going to make sure of it." "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, Lorenzo." Lorenzo didn't leave that bedroom for hours, reorganizing his entire schedule. Leo retrieved Camela's medical records. Lorenzo read through them in tense silence. Finally, he looked up, eyes blazing. "He lied to you. You're not dying. You were never dying." The doctors had said with proper surgery and intensive physiotherapy, she had an excellent prognosis for significant recovery, possibly full recovery. Daniel had abandoned her treatment to save money. "We're fixing this, starting now." Hey, beautiful family. If you smiled when Lorenzo recognized Camela, subscribe so we can keep making you smile with stories that matter. Within hours, Lorenzo forwarded records to specialists. By the next morning, he hired Mrs. Patel, an exceptional nurse. Sophie helped freshen Camela up, restoring her dignity. Camela broke down sobbing with relief. Leo renovated the room, turning it from a sick room into a healing space. Dr. Ghani arrived, scheduled surgery. decompress the spine, aggressive physiotherapy. You'll walk again, Miss Baptiste. I'm quite confident. Lorenzo was there for the surgery, pacing with relief when it succeeded. Physiotherapy was grueling, but progress came. Moving toes, sitting unassisted, first steps with a walker, then unassisted. By month 8, Camela walked into the sitting room healthy and radiant. Throughout those months, Lorenzo and Camela reconstructed their love, talking through old wounds, forgiving, and choosing each other again. Lorenzo launched a luxury bakery division, installing Camela as chief creative officer with equity. The house renovation completed with Lorenzo's backing. Leo restored it beautifully while bonding with Lorenzo. Sophie's relationship with her father healed completely. Camela integrated like family, baking again, filling the house with warmth. Life settled into startling happiness. They hosted a garden party to celebrate the finished home and new family. Here's a question for you, dear listener. Camela forgave Lorenzo after 25 years. Is there someone you need to forgive, or someone you hope will forgive you? Type your response in the comments section and share your story. But 50 miles away, Daniel Eden's life was collapsing. His company imploded from fraud discovery. Clients fled, debts mounted, girlfriend left. Desperate, he heard about Quaver's new bakery division needing transport. The contract could save him. After weeks of persistence, he got a meeting with Mr. Lorenzo Cuevas. Daniel waited hours in the gleaming headquarters, then pitched desperately. Mid-pitch, Camela entered, healthy, powerful, in a business suit. "Hello, Daniel. It's been a while." Daniel was speechless. "Camela, you're alive." "Very much so. No thanks to you." Lorenzo introduced himself as CEO, Camela's fiancé. The ring was the Art Deco emerald-cut diamond from 25 years ago. Daniel begged for the contract. "No," Lorenzo said firmly. He handed Daniel a debt counseling card. "Rebuild the hard way, Mr. Eden, with humility, with work, with the kind of patience you never showed Camela." Daniel left with nothing but the crushing understanding of what his cruelty had cost him. Everything. Camela had been saved by love, real love, from Sophie, Leo, and Lorenzo. She thrived, loved, powerful. Daniel had chosen convenience over love and lost it all. The end. It's a wrap on today's story, my amazing Pride family. But before I leave the final note, here are a few questions for you. Question 1. Have you ever been in a loveless marriage like Camela and Daniel's? What made you stay or leave? Question 2. What's the biggest sacrifice you've made for someone you love? Was it worth it? Question 3. Why haven't you subscribed to Proudly Black Stories? Tell me your answers in the comments section. I'll be reading all of it. Do take care of yourself until I see you in my next story. Lots of love.